Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Aastha Unplugged, the podcast series where, like I always say, we do some real talk. So we have leaders coming in and then we talk about stuff that's really happening in organizations, stuff where leaders struggle. What are some of the myths? What are some of the things where leaders operate in a certain way and then there is a question mark, and maybe we are able to get a perspective on how some things can be dealt with. What seems like a challenge, we have leaders coming in who've walked through that, who've evolved through that, and that's precisely the purpose. That can we make it unfiltered and do some real talk. And today I have with me yet another leader, and it's quite interesting. So let me welcome Akhilesh Saxena. Such a pleasure to have him. And just to let you know, we're going to be talking about creating legacy, building legacy. And it's interesting because he has this huge experience. He's already creating that legacy, 30 years, 3 decades through the corporate world as a very senior marketing professional. He's been, not only building some very, very powerful marketing strategies and implementing them, which makes me think that building strategies, which means connecting with the people, clients, and being able to understand what do they really need. That definitely needs some amount of connect, and that's something I'm definitely interested in diving a little deeper into. And through that corporate experience, today he's a startup founder. He's the CEO of Ajivika E-Mobility. The brand is called, the trade name is Ajigo. And what a creation. But let's dive deeper, understand what does leadership entail in these two very, very different domains. What has been his experience, how is he creating the legacy, and the hard work, perseverance, which he swears by. What does all of that really require? Yes. So let's join me in welcoming Akhilesh Saxena. Hi, Akhilesh. Welcome. Such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here and talk to us.
Hi, Aastha. First of all, thanks a lot for giving this opportunity to connect with your viewers and talk a little bit about myself and the organization which I am leading to. So thank you for this opportunity once again. And thanks again for your kind words in terms of how you introduced me. So it was pleasure hearing all those words. Thank you.
Great. The pleasure is all mine because, as I was not only going through the rich experience that you have, but also as I was speaking with you, what caught my attention was all that you've created, but that humility stands out, and I think that's the mark of a great leader. So I want to start by asking you, what does leadership mean for you? We're going to talk about legacy, creating a legacy. But before that, what does even leadership mean to you? And maybe, you've gotten into two different realms altogether, the corporate, the organizations where you were working. That was a very different leadership. And now it's your baby, startup that you founded. What does leadership here mean? And in the context of creating that legacy?
Surely, Aastha. See, the leadership to me really means creating something which is actually important for you, also for your peers and colleagues, and something that could contribute to the society. So the leadership means it has to be a consultative and collaborative thing, which helps you create and achieve the goals that you are actually setting for yourself as well as for your company. So I think it's an inclusive term which includes multiple things, not just the vision, but how to achieve that vision, how to reach to your goals. And it's a journey of experiences, it's a journey of getting connected with the people with whom you work or for whom you work. So in terms of your peers and colleagues as well as for your customers. So getting connected with them, understanding their requirements, and then have a consultative and collaborative approach to achieve the goals which satisfies yourself, your company, as well as your customers. I think it's a very inclusive thing of leadership that I think.
Wow. So you've used these terms, consultative, you said collaborative and inclusive. And you spoke about connect, right? Which I completely agree
Right.
is a very integral part of leadership. But I see a lot of leaders, Akhilesh, and it's not to point out anybody, but in general, um, that's where I see a lot of leaders who I work with struggle when it comes to the connect bit. Whether it is with their
Definitely.
team members, whether it is with their colleagues, or it is even their bosses, and there's a struggle. So what do and then they are the leaders, if I literally talk about it. So how important is connect when it comes to leadership? What is the impact of that connect missing?
Surely. See, I think being a leader, sometimes people get carried away by their own vision, by their own strategies, by their own thoughts. And in that entire thing, they simply miss out a very basic and very important thing, which is knowing the pulse of the people, knowing the pulse of the market, knowing the pulse of the customers. So, though they might be successful, I'm not saying that only one approach could lead to the success, but I think it is very important during the journey that you should understand your customers, your people with whom you work, and thus it is very important to have that very important point of getting connected at all times, so not missing the real pulse of the people and of the market. So I think that is one key difference in various leadership approaches. To me, it is actually very important because whatever I have learned through my last 30 years of experience and my journey in various companies, corporate as well as my own startup and entrepreneurship journey. So I think this getting connected to the people and especially with your customers, it makes a big lot of difference in terms of how you approach to the problem, how you approach to the offerings or the services that you are providing. And accordingly, the strategies do change. Because if you know the pulse of the market, if you know what the customer really wants, so it's not always that the kind of strategies that you have would always be appreciated by the customers and the market. So it has to be a very inclusive journey. So which means the market needs something. Your people also should know how to get those pulses. And then that has to be communicated well within the team and to the leadership also. And the leadership should respond accordingly and plan the strategies and implement the strategies with that input. I think that makes a big difference.
Got it. Got it. So how would you describe your leadership style? I do get it that connecting, getting the pulse of the people, like inclusive, that definitely is an integral part of your approach. What are some of the other aspects of your leadership which have really served you? Yeah.
Surely. First of all, the vision has to be there. So you should know what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve and for whom you want to actually contribute to. So it has to be, I think, three different stakeholders. First is myself as a leader, what I want to do my organization, which includes not just the profitability of the organization, but also to the people who are associated with me. And thirdly, for the customers to whom I'm offering. So that has to be there. So that balance has to be there. And with that vision, probably how you implement your strategies, how you plan your strategies, those things are actually needed to be very, very thoroughly chalked out, and everybody in the system should understand that. So it has to be connect with your vision, your strategies, and the implementation.
Okay. And what do you think is the sequence, the vision? I mean, you said it's about me. What do I really want? what do
Right.
my colleagues or my team, my organization wants, and then the society. What's usually the sequence? It's me, I come first, then the colleagues or the organization, and then the society, or it's the other way around, or
See, as talking about being a leader,
yeah.
absolutely the vision has to be there. The first,
Mhm.
in terms of how the sequence goes, I think there has to be the vision in
Okay.
terms of what you want to do, how you want to do.
Mm.
Then definitely you have to consider your customers, that
Okay.
whom you are going to serve.
Mm.
So what is their expectation, how your effort, your vision can contribute to the society, to your customers.
Mm.
And then comes the implementation part, and implementation is obviously through your team.
Mm.
So it has to be vision, the customers, and how you implement through your team. So I think this is the sequence.
Okay, got it. Got it. Hmm. So tell me, how has what does creating a legacy mean? You're 30 years and going strong. What does creating that legacy look like or mean to you?
Surely. So I think talking about a legacy means wherever you are, in whatever position or in whichever organization you are with. So be it a corporate world or be it into entrepreneurship, I think you should have a satisfaction of actually contributing or doing something which is really meaningful. So not just talking about your targets and fulfilling those targets, but the targets has to have some meaning, which means you are creating something for a longer time, which people set as an example or set as a benchmark. So I think if you are able to do that, that people quote you even after, like, you have probably passed from that organization to a different organization or from one position to another position, but that benchmark of how you have achieved what you have done remains there, and people set examples of saying that, oh, that was what it is, and probably whether we can do that or we can overachieve that or we can actually do it in a better way. If you are able to do that and people set your examples and set examples of what you have done, so I think that is what the legacy is. So if people remember you, despite you have passed that level or passed that organization, people still give your examples, talk about how you have done, what you were able to do, how you were able to connect with people. So
Yeah.
I think that's what creating legacy means.
Yeah.
And in my last 30 years of experience, I can actually uh, set multiple such examples or situations where I can remember that people still talk about, like, okay, Akhilesh was there, so that's how things used to be different or it used to be better, and
Mm.
this is how we have created something. So, like,
Mm.
quoting an example of probably one of my company, if I'm allowed to name that. So I actually fine. So I was working with MNC called Canon India. So it's a Japanese MNC, and it was very initial phase of Canon in India. So 2003, 2004, I joined Canon as a PDM for Maharashtra, and I was taking care of the IT related peripheral business. And the position was like HP used to be the market leader, and Canon was a very small, though it was a worldwide very big company, but it was a very small entity in India because they have just entered the market and nobody used to know Canon except the cameras. So in IT industry, it was a very small name or very new entrant for India per se.
Mm.
And that I was taking care of the distribution business through our channel partners, through our dealers, and then reaching out to the end customers. So the first challenge used to be like how you reach and set your distribution channel right so that more and more dealers are connected with you. They are getting the confidence to sell your product. Uh, you are taking care of their overall issues in terms of the performance of the product, the warranty replacement, the right pricing strategy, and the actual benefit if you are able to showcase to the end customer who are actually going to use that. So that was the big question mark. And that's how we actually started in 2004 positioning the printers and various IT peripherals of Canon in the market. And that channel that we have created long back in 2003 and 2004 even despite I have left the Canon almost some 15, 16 years back, but despite that, the same dealers, the same channel are still associated with Canon despite it being more than 20 years. So I think people still remember how we used to put an effort into market, go meet the customers, and how we used to help the dealers and channels. So I think that's how you create the legacy. And now Canon is, I think in a lot of segments, they are number one in India. And ahead of HP, Hewlett Packard, they are still ahead of HP and all the other competitor companies.
Interesting. Great. So, Akhilesh, as you talk about, the whole legacy, what comes to my mind is that when you said that it's about me feeling satisfied and that this is meaningful, this is purposeful, and it is aligned to my values, then it's going to be meaningful, purposeful also. So in your journey as a corporate leader, were there instances, because there are too many variables, too many different people, too many things to deal with, how easy or difficult was it to navigate these situations where okay, this is, the vision is there, we're all aligned, good, but were there moments when you were being pulled in a certain direction, but the situation was demanding something else which maybe you were not aligned to? And in those situations, how did you navigate, where these are my values, this is what I'm what I want to hold on to, but maybe the situation demands something different, I may be aligned, may not be aligned, and
Sorry.
you're getting what I'm saying. So those,
that's right.
Yeah. So how?
No, definitely. I think it's not just one instance. Probably there would be multiple such instances and multiple such situations when a leader actually faces these kind of difficult scenarios.
Yes.
So quoting another example, say in 2008, 2009, worldwide it was a very negative sentiment all across the markets. The businesses were down. It was a recession time going on. And I was heading MNC for India for another company, and heading another division, wherein I just joined, and after 3-4 months of taking the charge as a national head, the situation of recession and worldwide, and because it was a US based MNC, it was very highly impacted because of the recession, because the recession was very strongly felt in US. So suddenly, just before that, we were hiring people and expanding our team so that our reach in the market is better and we are able to cater to the customer requirement, position our products better, have new channels opened. And suddenly this news of recession coming in, and we were asked to sack even the new hired people. So it was a 100% opposite scenario within a few days or within a few weeks' time. So, and there was a situation where we actually hired somebody. So multiple of people we hired in that span of time, and immediately within a month's time, we were asked to actually let them go. Right. So these kind of situations were there where we were actually focusing into something, creating some impact by expanding ourselves, by expanding the business, by expanding the channel, by expanding the team. And suddenly it was actually to take care of what we were able to do within the given limitations. And the people sentiments are also very, because everybody was afraid that probably it's my number tomorrow, that I'll be asked to leave. And including the leaders like me were told to leave all of a sudden. So those kind of situations do arise, but you have to keep your calm, and instead of worrying about that what is going to happen tomorrow, I think it's important to keep your calm, keep your breaths in control. So you have to not get into anxiety.
Stay present. Stay in the moment.
Yeah, stay present. So stay in the moment and keep doing what you are supposed to do in the given scenario, and take control of the situation. Do your best in terms of what is available with the available resources, So we still kept on achieving what we were supposed to do, despite having very less number of resources. So we focus on something in terms of how we can reach to the end customers who can actually give us a bigger business. So instead of going for a smaller chunk in terms of numbers and in terms of revenue, because we were measured by the overall revenue and the margins that we were targeted for. So we focus in terms of if we can reach out to bigger corporate clients who can, with probably 1 or 2 team members, if we are able to crack one bigger deal. So at least our numbers are safe, our margins are secured, and the business could be continued with that.
Yeah.
So I think you have to get the control of the situation, analyze what your resources are available, what is available with you, and what best you can actually get out of that. And the same message has to be communicated to your team also, that do not worry about tomorrow, that tomorrow anything is possible. So it's not just the recession. Tomorrow there might be an accident, there might be something very negative which is beyond your control.
Yeah.
So it is all uncertain. The world is very uncertain. So worrying about uncertainty and not doing what you are required to do will not take you anywhere. So rather you focus on what is available with you, and till the time you are not asked to leave the organization, your job is secured. So that kind of message was required to be given to the team so that they can set their mind in the right direction, in a positive direction. That positivity has to be created. So I think those kind of situations do keep arising.
Yeah. So how did that look like on the ground? Which means, okay, I'm telling my team, stay positive, keep at it, don't worry, don't get anxious. I've said that once, but it's easier said than done. I mean, there's all that things, the environment is such at that time. How did you kind of support your team? Maybe this is one example, or any other such situations, anything that you may want to share, where what does it look like for a leader to really support the team consistently, like have their back and help them navigate like powerfully?
I think there again the thing of getting connected or being connected with your people comes into picture. So it's not just that giving that message, but you have to show them that you are there to support them. So probably a lot of time when it is required, you have to be with them in the market, be present in the meetings, and you show them by example that, okay, this is how I can actually contribute, and you need not to worry about other things. So that way you have to be actually physically present also sometimes. So not just by giving the thoughts or just the messages or communicating well, but you have to be actually present in difficult times and be there shoulder to shoulder, work along with the team and contribute. So leadership is not just giving a overview of the situation and then giving a verbal thing of assurance or just giving a verbal communication and verbal support. But a lot of time you have to be present when the difficult situation is there. So you have to go across along with the team, have joint meetings, have more discussions, in-depth understanding of the situation. So more interactive sessions, more inclusive approach to the work definitely makes a lot of difference. And when the people see that you are there with them, working along with them, and despite being the head of the organization or head of the division, if you are there with them working along, that confidence makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I also feel that when the going gets tough, you can't start building the connect right at that time. The
Very
connect should already be existing. So when the going is good, you are doing that work every single day, building that connect, being there for your people, so that it comes in handy when you really need it.
That's true. A general environment of positivity has to be there. Then only your words in difficult situation will make a difference, because people know you. They know, like, okay, this is how the things are and this is how a positive environment is created. The leader is actually doing what is being communicated. So he's taking care of my all day-to-day requirements and is there in the back.
Yes.
So I think that positive environment has to be a constant thing. Instead of just during the tough times.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So,
Got it. Got it. What has shaped you, Akhilesh, as a leader? What are some of the things, or what has been your journey of evolving as a leader through these 30 years?
surely. I think the changing scenario in terms of how the businesses have evolved, and if you are able to actually be with that flow or be with that journey and have to be flexible in terms of your approach, in terms of where you want to be. So, like in the initial stage, I being a mechanical engineer, I started my career with automobile industry. But then, when in early 2000, the things were moving more towards the IT. So I also thought about the same thing, that how long can I go in my career, and what is my thought process, what is my goals, probably how I see myself after 10 years. So that have to be there in the mind, and accordingly, you have to. I deliberately and knowingly I changed the industry from automobile to IT industry.
Okay.
Right. So that change has to be there. So you have to be
Mm.
flexible to change with the
Mm.
required. So how the things are evolving, you have to be the part of that evolvement. So
Mm.
that has to be there. And you
Mm.
have to be flexible in terms of working in one scenario to different scenario, because every industry, every organization have their respective set of environment, how they work, the company thought process, the culture of the company actually changes from one organization to other organization and one industry to other industry. So the actual evolvement is, if you are open to change and if you are able to cope with the change, I think that's how you evolve as a better person in a long run. And I think I've done good work around that in terms of switching over from one industry to other industry, and then from one industry to other organization to a different organization, and then into the entrepreneurship journey.
Mm.
So, and it's a long journey in terms of actually learning a lot of things.
Yeah. What
So the
kind of
learning
thing?
never stops.
Uh-huh. So, is it so? Learning one is, of course, because of the experience that you're earning, the on-the-job training kind of trains you, helps you build the skill set, all of that. But was there something which kind of knocked you and said, no, 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 I need to work on this, else I think I'll be knocked off? You know, as a leader, if I need to emerge powerful, be there for my people, progress, then this one thing or these two things I really need to work on. Was there something like this which hit you hard? Oh, this is where maybe I think I'm a little bit struggling and maybe I need to evolve here. Did you have something, those moments?
I think not just one or two examples. I think it's a constant thing that you have to
Mm.
actually keep on understanding that, okay, this is because uh, with every time frame there are different set of requirements which are actually coming, and you
Yeah.
have to actually keep on changing or adding up a lot of things and removing a lot of things from your system. So
Mm.
not just uh, in terms of personality or in terms of your attitude, also
Mm.
in terms of the processes, your plannings and strategies. So it's a constant thing. So number of time it happens that depending on how the things are changing, you have to figure out and find out what are the new things that you have to actually include in your habits, in your organization, in your
Mm.
processes. So,
Mm.
like, give an example. When we started our entrepreneurship journey, so we started as a distribution company for various IT products. Then later on, we realized that only being into product distribution is probably not what we want to achieve. We want to be more into the service industry in terms of actually making a difference by our efforts, by our systems. So we started getting into the IT enabled services domain, where a lot of software involvements were there, a lot of manpower related things were there. So there were projects where we need to take care of. So end-to-end implementation in terms of physical manpower, deployment of manpower in terms of hundreds of people have to be managed. in terms of setting up the processes, and being a very time-bound activity. Those kind of projects we have been involved with, which were very time constrained. That okay, for example, within 2 months' time, you have to complete this project, which includes probably multiple of lakhs of some piece of work, where every day that is fixed, and by whatever means you have to complete that TAT. And because it is a time bound thing, which means there are other processes involved. So if we do not complete our activity, the next process actually stops. And the our customers' overall output is highly impacted due to that. Because of some restrictions, I am not clearly mentioning what the kind of projects. Sure. But you can understand it is a time-bound project where a lot of manpower is required, and a lot of time it is a contractual manpower, because the time duration of the project is very small, like 2 months, 3 months time duration. But you have to arrange 200, 300 people who can actually complete that job. Then a lot of software implementations are required. So you have to actually put software in places. Before that, pre-function and post-functions are also there. So that complete TAT is required. So from a very product-oriented, product distribution-oriented company, we took the challenge of getting into the services, understand the nitty-gritty of the domain, and a fast implementation of the required things so that our projects are completed in the given time frame. So these kind of changes has to be there. Right? And because of that approach, in terms of being flexible, being adaptive, and changing your way of doing things, actually gives a lot of confidence to take new projects, implement what is required, and successfully complete the work.
Got it. And what motivated you to get into entrepreneurship, with such a huge experience in the corporate?
Surely. So I think it's always the hunger that you have to do something more creative, with more liberty, and do something which is more meaningful for yourself, and which can be actually passed on to the next generation. So I think that is what actually motivated. So after 20 years of being into corporate world, I took a conscious decision that okay, I think I've done quite a bit in corporate world. So this is the right time that I should actually move into my own entrepreneurship and startup journey.
Yeah.
So, and the age was also the right thing, that I thought if I'm not doing it now, I think it will be too late for me to think about that. So being into the early 40, I actually thought of moving into the entrepreneurship. So that zeal to actually do something for myself and to create something which can actually be which gives me more flexibility, which gives me more peace of mind, which gives me liberty to experiment, probably not just succeed, but sometimes it's a failure also, which is a part of that. So you have to embrace both success as well as failures. So, but till the time you don't do that, you will not be actually getting that experience and that understanding. And there will always be something which will be actually bothering you if you have that zeal, and if you are not doing that, then you will always regret that, okay, I would have done this probably 10 years back or 5 years back. So that was the main motivation for me. So being hungry towards doing something more creative with more flexibility and more liberty, that motivated me.
Got it. And now that there's more flexibility, more liberty, doing something for yourself, how has your leadership changed from what it was?
Surely. See, with entrepreneurship, there is a big difference while you work in a corporate and while you are in your own startup or your own enterprise. I think the main difference comes in terms of your financial planning. Because when you work with corporate, you are assured about your monthly earnings, and you know that, okay, on the 25th or the 1st of every month, you are getting this much. and you can actually plan accordingly for your overall things, for your savings, for your future and everything. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, it is the other way. Then you have to plan in a different direction in terms of, okay, if it is going to be first, or if it is going to be the 7th of the month, I have to shell out this much of money for the overall staff salary, other requirements, overheads, and other things. So that approach has to be there, and you have to be more cautious about how you plan your financials. So that is one big difference. Other thing is, in the entrepreneurship, you are able to think about, and there is no constraint in terms of what kind of business, what is that the company has to do. Because as a free person to do what you want, you can actually think about something which is more towards your own personal goals. So that kind of business you can actually plan and get into. So I think that thought process changes, the planning changes, and your approach towards the work changes.
Got it. And is there any moment where you feel, oh, I'm doing it this way? I could have done it this. I could have used this back in my corporate days, or something that I used to do it that way. There, can I use it now? I mean, do you see that thing of I could have used this back then, stuff like that as you're evolving?
Very much, very much. A lot of situations I've faced where actually I always thought that if I was having full liberty, then when I was in corporate, it could have been much better than what I've actually achieved. So like just giving an example without naming that.
Sure.
There was a large project where we were working long back in like 2010-11 types, wherein actually we were in full control of the project. We were the consultant to the government, how to implement, what technologies to be used, the entire planning. So everything we did for the government. At the end of the project, we ended up just selling our product to the client, which was just 10% of the overall revenue. Wherein the 90% of the revenue went to somebody else. Though 100% of the thing were the input, the control, the management from our side, but because of the company's limitation not to end up into those domains, we ended up just getting 10% of the revenue of the entire project. Wherein in our entrepreneurship journey, we made that change, and that's how, like I said, from being a product distribution company, we thought of getting into the services. Because in a project, the product is probably 10%, 15% value. But if you're doing end-to-end services, the end-to-end completion of the work, you probably end up getting more chunk of the business. So a lot of time, these kind of things, wherein like the being a part of a large corporate, there are always limitations. There are worldwide strategies, worldwide purposes, a lot of other people who are involved, which might not think the way you are thinking, which might not have the same connect to the ground realities, how the market is turning, how the things are moving. And despite the feedback, they will not appreciate that you are diverting from the core focus area, right? And they will end up losing that big chunk of revenue, and probably after 5 years, they will regret that we didn't move in the time. So,
got it.
But with your entrepreneurship, you are free to take that judgment, and obviously, it's not always success which you get by that. Sometimes there are failures also, there are challenges also. But I think at least there is a satisfaction of exploring things, considering, evaluating, and if it fits to your vision and to your direction, then obviously getting into that makes more sense. Rather than regretting that I have not considered, I have not evaluated, and I didn't explore that.
Got it. So when we talk about creating a legacy, and we're saying that 3 things: hard work, perseverance, and resilience, right? These are very, very fundamental, or these are important, critical to creating a legacy. And these,
Correct.
I'm sure, require uh, the leader to do a lot of work on himself or herself, right?
Definitely.
So whether it is the hard work or it is so whatever it is which holds me back, my internal barriers. But I see a lot of leaders, and what's your opinion on this? I see a lot of leaders, maybe not intentionally, but the way the environment is or the ecosystem is, they are so caught up in the, I would say, the doing part of it, that they absolutely miss out on, okay, what's my energy like? How is what I'm doing landing on my people, landing on others? The connect that you just spoke of. I mean, I'm just so overwhelmed with what my bosses are throwing at me, with the stuff that's happening. Sometimes it's there, and they're not able to navigate both of those. So how what worked for you and what didn't work for you? Now whether it was a capability issue, whether it was a willingness issue, but what was that one thing you felt, yeah, this was one thing which always helped me, it always brought me back, this was one thing I feel I could have done this one thing didn't work for me? It was maybe a certain being or certain action of yours, behavior of yours.
I think there are multiple aspects to that. I
Sure.
think most of the time people actually get caught up with their own thoughts, with the day-to-day processes and day-to-day limitations they have due to the work in hand.
Yeah.
Or because of the pressure from the management or pressure from the company or the organization that they are working with. They are not able to think creatively. They are not able to foresight how the things are evolving, or how one action of theirs can lead to something either very good and creative, or something which is very, very limited to the approach that you are going right now. I think in an organization, whether it's an entrepreneurship or whether it is a corporate organization, it is very important to have a vision to how the things are evolving and be flexible to that approach. So in terms of, if you see there is something which is going to create an impact after 5 months, 6 months, 1 year down the line, and if you do not prepare it for the same now, then there is a sudden challenge which will always be there in front of you. So after 1 year, you'll suddenly find that, okay, things are actually in front of you, and you are not prepared to actually adapt for that change. The change can be within the business or within the organization. That change could be how the technology is evolving. That change could be how the buyer behavior is changing with the timeline, with the time frame. Or the change could be anything else also which is beyond your control. But you have to actually foresee how the things are happening. You have to be more connected with the overall ecosystem that you are into.
What helped you do that? What helped you foresee or connect or, just manage yourself?
The one thing is be creative. I'll say that. Okay. Not just be bothered about what you're doing right now, what you're supposed to do right now. You have to be more creative in terms of how something can be done better. Right? So you have to think about what could be like in terms of the customer's perspective. The customer might be choosing you or your company or your services or your product for one set of requirement. So you have to be creative in terms of how maybe some other opportunities could be created within the same customer environment, with your better services, with your better product, or with a different product which is not available right now probably. But that product is in the evolution phase as of now. So if you start pitching that today, then probably after 6 months, 1 year down the line, that things could change. So I think there has to be very good planning in terms of how the business is evolving, what you need to do, and be very vocal about that also, I think. So a lot of time people do hesitate in terms of why to unnecessarily create a difference of opinion or how to give something which is not the requirement as of now, whether it would be responded in a positive way or not. So I think those kind of thoughts people have, and the fear of failure actually hold you back. So I think you have to be very assertive in terms of your approach, but you have to be very flexible also, right? And the fear of failure is always there, but you have to actually have a balance of being creative, being I would say experimentative, yet focused on the current targets also. So you have to keep a good balance in both the things. So if you are able to do that, then I think there is something which can be more satisfactory and more within your control. That balance approach has to be there.
Has to be there. And do you think these things can be acquired? They can be learned?
100%. So these are adaptive behaviors and adaptive thinking, I think. So you can actually learn from your peer, you can learn from the market, you can learn from your colleagues, you can learn from your superiors. You can actually read good books. So everything actually helps you build your approach. So it's not always that it is inbuilt. Most of the time it is actually other resources, other people. It's always learned from them.
And would you agree, Akhilesh, that sometimes there are assets in people, they're potential assets, but just because they are lacking on some of these things unintentionally, subconsciously, they miss out on being the assets. They kind of get to the disempowering side of it. Because no work is ever done in helping them acquire those, or they are mindful enough that okay, maybe I need this and I'm committed to creating this. So sometimes a lot of potential is lost there, where lot of times, right? So and then that's what flows also top down, because
100%. Because I think that's a moral responsibility and the corporate responsibility of the leader to identify those issues which are actually creating a negative impact in the team, in the organization, in the process, in the systems that you have made. So that is very, very important to identify those negative aspects. So it could be somebody's behavior, it could be somebody's bad habit, it could be the flaw in the process, it could be the wrong product that you have pitched or the wrong product that you have introduced. And there is never 100% hit ratio in terms of what you do would be successful only, but you should be able to identify it very quickly. So the more longer you actually linger on with that problem, so I think that is the biggest issue. So always there would be positive and negative things, but if you are able to identify the problem, think about the remedy of that, and make the required changes within the given time period. I think that is the time is also a very important aspect in terms of like how you should react and when you should react. So if you are able to identify that and react at the right time, I think that makes a lot of difference in terms of your leadership approach and how the organization works. So being a leader, that is, I think, the biggest responsibility of the leader, to identify the flaws in the overall organization and rectify them in time without blaming somebody else, because there will never be a perfection in the entire ecosystem. There will always be flaws, there will always be good things and the bad things. So how best you can actually remove the not so good things from the system, you work around that. If it is people behavior, you work around that. If it is the wrong positioning, you have to work around that, and you do the required changes within the given time period. I think that makes a big difference.
Got it. Yeah. So Akhilesh, as you were talking about this, how it's the responsibility of the leader and the impact is huge. So how did you manage all of that for yourself? I mean, let's say your energy, and whenever those biases or those barriers showed up for you, How did you manage it? What did you do?
I think it's very important for a leader to be in control of your emotions, in control of the processes, in control of the teams that you are uh, associated with.
Yeah.
So if you are in control of the things, and if you know your team quite good, you know your processes quite good, you know your customers quite good. So it helps you a lot in terms of timely identification of the problem, then timely taking the inputs from various stakeholders that what could be the best solution to that. Sometimes the solutions comes from the team itself or from the customer itself. So it's not that only the leader can actually think about a solution and have a right approach, but a lot of time it is the peers, the colleagues, the customers, the partners who are associated with. They have a problem, but they have a solution also, which they are not able to identify. So if you give a right deep thought, deep conversation, so I think good communication, good conversation on the issue actually makes you have a better control, better understanding of the problem, and figure out the right solution within the given time frame. So a lot of time, instead of looking for a perfect solution, I think it is important to have a solution which is workable currently to take care of the system, to take care of the current problem, and then you can work around to make it more perfect, make it more better, rather than waiting for getting a perfect solution. So I think that is again an approach that as a leader you should have. That sometimes it is that leader look for a perfect solution. That no, I want a 100% foolproof solution to this issue. But there has to be sometimes a middle path that you have to take to have a better control of the overall situation. So I think me as a more consultative, more collaborative, and more inclusive leadership style that I have, that actually helps in most of the cases. That helps me to be at the right track, think about a good solution, figure out a right approach, and then have a quick implementation. Because if that solution is coming from the peer, from the colleague, from the team, or from the distributor's partner itself, then it is easier to implement that also. Rather than like if you take the understanding of the problem, then you come with a solution and then you push it to your team. A lot of times there's a rebound to that. But if it is actually inclusive thought, a discussion coming after a deep discussion, then the implementation on that solution is much more easier and much more faster. I think that approach helps a lot in terms of doing the right thing to the best of the cases.
Yeah. And how much do you endorse or you agree with having coaches, mentors for leaders, sometimes external intervention to kind of deal with or navigate or manage certain challenges? Let's say they've identified certain symptoms, they may not possibly know what's there deep down at the source of it. And once they've identified, okay, these are the symptoms. So having that external intervention, how important is it? Or you think not really?
I think it is in most of the cases it is important. Because somebody who is actually not caught up with the day-to-day situation, having a third-party overview, having a third-party feedback, having a mentor approach, somebody who is away from the situation but getting the pulse of the details, they can actually help you understand, have a better approach. So having a mentor, having somebody with whom you can actually discuss with open mind and open thoughts, your approach, your vision, you can discuss about your strategies. Having a third party view is always helpful, I'll say. So having a mentor is always good. And even though if you are a CEO of the company, that doesn't mean that you know everything about each and everything.
Sure.
So Having a guru, having a mentor always helps you,
Got it.
irrespective of whichever position you are.
Got it. Yeah, sure. Got it. And do you think, I mean, that's my experience. I just would want your opinion on this, that when I talk to a lot of leaders and in the organizations, um, quite often the safe space is not available, where
Right.
people can unwind, open up. So I can walk up to you and say, hey, this is what I'm planning, what do you think, etc., etc. But deep down, maybe what is it that I'm dealing with, so much so that some of the leaders who have coaches available to them from the organization itself, they, somewhere it's a very limited opening which these leaders have with the coaches, because of the whole environment. Okay, these are provided by the organization, there's only so much I can share. So somewhere that safe space, I feel that kind of defeats the purpose of maybe coaching or mentorship or whatever it is. What do
Very
you
true.
think, what's your take on that, where because people are so busy running, they have these sources available, but somewhere they're not able to pour out that which needs to be poured out, really. And
100%.
organizations, I feel, need to, while we're so busy chasing that success, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying we get so busy with all that stuff that we forget this part of it, which is so fundamental to sustaining everything else, the mental well-being and everything, all of that. And for that, certain things need to be non-negotiable. I feel somewhere that in the culture, this needs to be non-negotiable, these things, because leadership, it just flows down. Then what's passing on is and that's what creates workplaces which are not conducive, where people don't want to work there, kind
Right.
of.
Very true. No, I fully agree to what you think. And in my personal experience also, I would say that I endorse the thought that you have proposed to me. That though most of the companies now have people into HR who are actually working around these things, so not
Yeah.
just the coaching and trainings for the teams and but for the leaders also.
Yeah.
But again, as you rightly said, there is always a sense of being into the safe zone in terms of how much you can share, how much you can be open with the people who are internally connected through HR, through the organization. And there will always be a limitation, especially if you're working in a corporate.
Yeah.
Working with as an entrepreneur is a different approach altogether. But if you're working in a corporate environment, there is always that fear of probably not being that very open, not showing each and every aspect of your personality, right? That is always there. And there exactly a third party mentor or a coach who are not directly associated with the organization
Yeah.
definitely helps, because with somebody who is not that involved into day-to-day things, not involved into the organizational structure,
Yeah.
you can be more open, you can be more elaborative in terms of giving the details of the issues, how you think, why you think so, and have a more open, deep discussions, and that would always help you to have a better approach to the problems.
Yeah.
So that would always help positively.
Got it. Lovely. I think these were some amazing perspectives that you shared from your journey, and um,
And just adding to that last
yeah,
bit, I would say not just coaches or
Yeah.
the trainers or the mentors. I would say your friend circle, your social thing definitely helps you. Having
Yeah.
good friends which are handy, with whom you can actually open up with your heart.
At workplace, you're saying, or out in
Both,
general?
both in general.
Sure.
So
Sure.
within the workplace also, you can have one or two person with whom you can be a bit
Yeah.
more confident.
Yeah.
And outside the workplace, it is always required, so that that anxiety, that stress, you can actually burst out, because there has to be somebody with whom you can be actually very open your heart, so that then you are stressed out.
Yeah.
And then once that thing is gone, then you have more peace of mind, more clarity in your thoughts,
Yeah.
And that small piece of advice from somebody who is probably your friend, your colleague, or whosoever it is,
Yeah.
right? So that
True.
piece of small advice makes a big difference sometimes.
Yeah, and I think sometimes just being heard by somebody,
Correct.
you've just poured out everything. It's more than enough. Sometimes, you're like, okay, I feel
Very
better.
true.
True. So I
Very
think
true.
everything, what just shouts out very loud at me throughout this is connect. This also boils down to then again
100%.
connect.
Yes. Yes.
How beautiful connections, how deep connections I have, how meaningful connections I have, both at workplaces and outside, will determine the quality of my life. I mean, that's something I've experienced, and I always say that that's the work that I do. And as you said, it's the collaborative, the inclusive thing with your people at workplace, plus maybe people in your family also. I mean, there are leaders I know, they're growing, all of that, but there is the dissatisfaction, disempowerment, because back at home the relationships are not as great sometimes. So the connect, I think,
100%. That
is the
also
key.
contribute a lot to your
That
approach. If you
Yeah.
are not peaceful at your home, then you
Yeah.
cannot be more productive in the workplace.
Absolutely. I think that's where it all begins. That's like the source,
Very true.
your
Very true.
energy. So true.
Right.
So, yeah, this was lovely. And I think what I'm getting, and I would ask you for your closing thoughts as well. But when we talk about creating a legacy, and a leader looks at, okay, what's the legacy I want to leave or create here? Then I think amongst it could be anything, but it boils down to fundamentally who you are being, how much you're working, how have you evolved, grown through that journey, because only then can you create the kind of impact that you want to create, that which is the legacy that you want to create. So
Very true.
and that starts by you having a very profound, deep connect with your own self. In the
Positively.
absence of that connect with yourself is when everything is loose. It starts with yourself, and then, of course, all those connections. So I think I so resonate when you say every time, connecting, adapting, being flexible, and I think all of this, when you said that the fear that you spoke about, the barriers that are there, despite all of them, they do not define you. But even if they are there, despite them, I'm doing what needs to be done. I'm seeking support. I'm sharing. I'm being vulnerable. So all of those things, which then help me, navigate the situation. And like you said, that things will keep happening. You don't know. 2008, 2009 happened. So situations will happen. They're not in your control. But like you said, if you can be creative, if you can be flexible, if you can be vocal about things, if you can express, if you can reach out, seek help, include your people, seek their opinion, right, and think about everybody. I think that's fundamental to creating a legacy.
100%. 100%. I think you summed it up quite well. And
Yeah. Anything that I missed out on? What are your closing thoughts?
I think you covered almost everything. So
Sure.
as you rightly said, being connected with your overall environment,
Yeah.
your customers, your business people, your partners, your team, your
Yeah.
family, with your friends. So I think that makes a big difference. And taking control of your own thoughts, taking control of your own physical
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
I think from there itself it starts. So if you are in good health, if you are eating good, sleeping well,
Yeah.
reading good things, I think that keeps you motivated, keeps you positive. Being into a good company of good friends, good people, that also makes a lot of difference, because the energy comes from there.
Absolutely.
And you learn each and every day. So every day is a new learning, so new challenges are there. So, and that will always remain. So you be it in any industry, any organization, any environment, challenges would always be there. Unforeseen situations would always keep coming. So it's your attitude towards whether you want to solve a problem, how you want to solve a problem, and with what all resources you can actually look for a solution.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference. So challenges would be there, but if you are having a good thought process, overall approach is positive, I think the result would always be positive.
Yeah, so true. That's all that is in my control, you know. I do the work, I
That's
train
right.
my brain.
100%.
That's it. बाहर तो सब जो होना है होना है.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. तो आपको अपना ही देखना है, मतलब what best you can do in the given scenario is what would
Yes.
make a big difference actually.
Yeah. I love that. I just love that. And I really wish, you know, that more and more leaders get present to that, because, you know, a lot of times when, you know, when I'm working with, let's say, and they say, okay, Astha, I get your point. I'm doing the work on myself, but what do I do about my boss, you know? And that's a hard reality, that there are protocols, there are systems, and
Correct.
when that is not reciprocated from the leadership, it just becomes a little difficult, you know. So I think that work starts at the top, and I wish more and more leaders get present to it. More and more leaders are aware, and more organizations are kind of we're not compromising with this, you know. The culture is important. When they start doing that, I think, yeah, I'm really looking forward.
Make a difference.
Yes. Super. Thank you so much, Akhilesh. Had a wonderful conversation with you. I'm sure all those people who are listening, watching will have a great time. You know, I'm sure you will all have gotten something about where you are in your leadership journey, some nuggets, and yeah, basis that, do the work that is needed wherever it is needed, and hard work is what you must pick up if you really want to grow and take it to the next level.
Thank you so much, Aastha, and it was a pleasure interaction with you. And I think it gave a good refreshment to my thoughts, because a lot of things we in this last 1.5 hours discussion, I traveled across last 30 years of my experience. So that was a very refreshing experience once again. And thanks for the opportunity that you have created for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.